Hey guys, welcome to the channel, welcome to the vlog. This is Car Connections. Just out here in the morning, Sunday morning here in Houston, Texas. It's around mid-March. And we're gonna talk about why the Porsche Taycan is the most overpriced EV on the market today. Nice, cool, fresh morning here in Houston, Texas. And I want to talk about the Porsche Taycan today. I'm going to take her out for a quick little drive, share with you guys my ownership experience so far. I've had the car maybe close to 2 months now, and share with you guys my opinion as to why this car, based on the competition, why it is literally the most overpriced EV car in the market relative to its competition. When you look at the overall package of what are the benefits you're getting from this car compared to the competition, you're talking apples to oranges. So join me, please subscribe and turn on your notification button. And we're gonna take the Porsche Taycan for a quick little 10-minute drive. Let's do a cold start. Let's see here. Did you guys hear that exhaust note? Was that epic or what? You got to use your imagination, guys. Relax. I'm running a little short on the juice. I'm at 108. Again, this car comes with 3 years of free Electrify American charging. They give you 30-minute sessions. There's a caveat today, of course, right? I think I'm going to end it pretty strong. So for my guys that are Porsche enthusiasts, relax. Thoroughly really enjoying the car. But let's take it for a quick spin. One thing I did want to note real quick is this is a regen button. If you're not familiar with regen, because a lot of my guys that follow me on this channel are not EV enthusiasts. I know that for a fact. But the regen basically is when you brake, the car will regen energy back into the car's motors to recharge it. But this one also has an exhaust note. Unlike the new Dodge, I can't think of the Banji, I think it's called, where it has piped in noise into it. This car has a similar noise, except it's not an exhaust noise. It's like a weird electric noise, and it's this button right here. So when you press this button right here, you guys can't hear it, but once I put the car in reverse, which is done over here, you'll hear it turn on. That's it. There it goes. Maybe you guys didn't hear it, but it's kind of like an electric sound that's coming out of the car for sure. I would probably call it more of pedestrian detectors, because I have been driving this car at times and people don't know I'm behind them. So when I turn on that noise, people on the outside can actually hear me, which is actually a good safety feature. Let's put her in down drive. Let's get out of here real quick and let's talk about my new 2021, or new to me, Porsche Taycan. All right, guys, so I purchased this car, again, about 2 months ago. Bought it used, had about 3,000 miles on it. The original MSRP on this car, options that it has on it, I don't have the original sticker, by the way, but I do have the original 2 keys, which is always awesome. I tried looking for the Maroni, but it was very difficult. Maroni, guys, is basically the sticker, or the window sticker is kind of the official name, in case you guys don't know. And the car value at the time was about 110, 109.09 or something like that. So that's how much the car was back in 2021 when it was purchased. I bought it from a used dealership, again, one owner car, and I ended up getting the car for a little bit over $90,000. It's around $91,000 on the car. And I thought it was a pretty good deal. I mean, so that lets you know that the car in about 2 years had about, call it a, $15,000, $20,000 depreciation. And so I would think most of the depreciation on this car has already happened. I have looked online and looked at the depreciation values on these cars, and sure enough, what I'm noticing is Porsches across their lineup tend to depreciate a lot less than other vehicles in its class. And that's probably a good thing, right? That's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing on this car. So let's talk about that, because it's important to lay a foundation around the conversation, since we're going to be talking about why this Porsche is probably the most overpriced EV out in the market for what you get. One of the things that is tremendous value around Porsche is they hold their value a lot. So I'm going to talk about other cars that are in its kind of same class, but to be fair, most of those other cars have depreciated like the world literally is about to end tomorrow, and people are trying to get rid of them. A good example of that, which people will say that it's probably in the same class, is Tesla. You're always going to talk about Tesla, guys, when you talk about EVs. It's the most common brand that's thrown out. The reason it's thrown out into the conversation is because they lead the EV market. Like that is just a reality, is they lead the EV market when it comes to electrification of cars. The reason they lead the market is because they do build I've owned a Tesla, and they do build a high quality vehicle. Again, I've owned them. I've never owned the Model S. I did try a test drive a Model S, a 2021, 2022 Model S, when I was cross-shopping this car. And again, if this car is so overpriced, why do I even own it? Again, I'm going to answer that question. But the reason I brought up Tesla, and again, I'm looking at the Model S in particular, is when you look at a Tesla Model S and you would buy that one new, that car cost roughly around, you're looking at around $110,000 for a Model S. Now, again, the Model S is going to have more room than this car. And as you can see from a price perspective, they're similar in MSRP when they first, compared to the Porsche. But the Model S, guys, is going to give you double the range. This car, EPA rated, so that's the first issue you're going to run into. The EPA rating on this car is 200 miles. And on the Model S, it's almost close to 400 miles, guys. So right there off the bat, when you look at the dollar per dollar and what you're getting in regards to range, the Tesla is ahead. And it's not the Tesla only, guys. There's other cars in its class, in the Porsche's class, that just have more range. They just do. It's just a reality. The other thing that is a differentiator is the car I'm driving right now is considered the base rear model, right? If I was driving a Porsche Turbo that was in a Taycan, I mean, you're looking at 200,000, maybe $250,000. So now, you go into the Plaid range, and of course, we all are familiar with the Tesla Plaid. If you're not, you should familiarize yourself with it. That car does like 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, guys, and that's over 1,000 horsepower, right? So, and again, when you look at the cost relative to what the vehicle you're getting, I mean, it is night and day when it comes just to looking at those black and white numbers. When you're looking at range, when you're looking at 0 to 60, right? And you compare Tesla against Porsche, and again, just looking at numbers, you would think, wow, the Porsche, it's just not there. Why would I buy a Porsche, right? I just shared one of the reasons why you would probably buy a Porsche is in any of those two, if you would buy the Model S or if you would buy even the Plaid, your depreciation on those cars, I mean, the Plaid has depreciated, guys, almost like $55,000. I mean, you go on the market right now, you can get a Plaid for like $85,000, $90,000. You're not going to be able to find a Taycan Turbo for that. The cheapest you might find is probably around maybe like 180, 170, give or take. So again, for the same year, so the depreciation are just night and day. So you might wonder this. So why is a Tesla depreciating so much, right? One of them, we all know, they raised the price. I mean, they lowered the prices on the new ones. So anybody that owns Tesla has seen massive depreciation in their car. That hasn't happened with Porsche. But at the end of the day, even before the Model S, Porsches in general, guys, have never really depreciated as much as other cars. That's the reality, right? So, when you look at the car and you look at it again in just black and white numbers, you are overpaying for the Porsche. You are, if you are looking at efficiency, right? And you're looking at the biggest bang for your dollar. That is a fact. You can just take that to the bank. You don't have to have any doubt about that. It's a really beautiful spot here, by the way, guys. It's right here near the lake. Or it's not a lake, it's a river. But let's see if I can kind of zoom in a little bit over there so I can show you how gorgeous it is here. And this road runs all along the edge of this lake. Pretty epic. So now the question might be, then Edgar, then why would you have bought a Porsche, right? Like, you're gonna get more power off the Tesla. You're gonna get more range off the Tesla. And to be fair, Tesla has a better infrastructure. They do, guys. There's chargers everywhere. So why did you get a Porsche? And I test drove both of them, guys. I test drove the Porsche, and I test drove the Model S, and I test drove also the Audi GT, the e-tron, if you guys are familiar, which is basically underpins the same chassis as the Porsche. They're almost the same car, just at a better value for sure. And I test drove all three of those cars because they're all kind of similar in their class. And so the question is, okay, Edgar, if you're saying that this is the most overpriced EV, then why the hell are you driving it, right? That's the question. And in simple terms, guys, the reason I'm driving it is because the Porsche is a better car. That's why. First of all, it comes with the heritage. The brand itself is on a class on its own, guys, right? So when you just look and you think about Porsche, it's been around, it's well engineered, and it's well put together. One thing you will never run into Porsche, like people, and you don't have to listen to me, just look at your people that own Teslas. I've owned a Tesla, but again, I owned a Model 3 Performance. I've never owned a Model S, right? But I test drove it, and just looking around the Model S, yes, it was fast, guys. It was really fast. And again, the range is there, but I'm gonna tell you right now, when it came to the overall driving experience, there's nothing like a Porsche. This is, out of all the cars I've ever owned, it is the best handling car. I could only imagine if I was able to purchase, call it an S or a turbo. So now you get one of the fastest cars out in the market with the best handling. That's an amazing recipe. So the first thing, again, is that there's not a better handling, I believe, car than what I'm driving right now. Some people might argue that if you compare it with an ICE vehicle, maybe a Porsche GT3 RS, and I get it, right? Those cars might be in a similar class as this one when it comes to actually just handling. But this car, number one, when I test drove both, this just handled better, period. Talk a little bit about suspension, because that is now number two as to why people will overpay on a Porsche. Because if I am saying this car is overpriced, that means I overpaid, right? I'm guilty as charged. Handling one. The next thing on this thing is the suspension tuning in its own class. Model S, don't get me wrong, handles great, and it allows you to make adjustments on it to make the suspension a little stiffer. It gives you those outs. But this car right here, when I put it on the sport setting, and now you have handling, and now you have literally best in class suspension, it outranks any other car out in the market, especially in the EV world. So as I was test driving it, I noticed the handling was just at another level. I noticed that suspension tuning on this car was at another level, right? So those two things, I was like, man, am I about to really spend more on this car, or about the same when I could have got a Model S that will literally kick this car's ass in the quarter mile and get way better range and infrastructure? Am I about literally to spend about the same or more on the Porsche? And I quickly was starting to narrow down to that, hence why I own the Porsche today. So let's go to number three now. And that would be exclusivity. How many Porsche Taycans can you actually count in your hand when you're driving around? Some of you guys listening to this vlog probably have never seen one on the road. But I sure as hell can tell you, you've probably seen a Model S. They're everywhere. The Tesla product is everywhere, guys. Everywhere. I mean, it's like you can't go anywhere nowadays without seeing a Tesla product, right? Yeah, the Model S, it's a little bit more rare than the Model 3 and the Model Y. The Model 3 and Y are literally like, when I say everywhere, that's over the top everywhere. The Model S is a little less rare, but it's everywhere. You know what the car, it looks like a Model 3, guys. The Porsche Taycan looks unique. I mean, it is exclusive, and they don't make that many. So if you're chasing eyeballs, or if you're trying to say, I want to just drive something that's unique that a lot of people don't have, the Porsche Taycan takes that as well. So that's another thing when you're making your purchase decision, right? It's like, man, I can get more range, I can do all these things. However, the Porsche, I just told you 3 major components that the Tesla is not going to give you. Period. End of story. Always know that you're going to pay for what you get. Okay? If you go cheap in life, this goes outside of cars, you're going to get cheap things. Right? If you half-assed your job personally at work, you're going to get half-assed work. And to be honest with you, you probably won't be at that job that long. But if you go out and you bust your ass to deliver a high-quality outcome from your job, you're probably going to keep your job because you bring value to your organization, right? So another thing you got to understand, which is now a 4th thing, is Porsche builds high-quality cars. They will not let a car go out if it doesn't meet its demand quality inspection. That, guys, you will not find in Tesla. There are people that the gap panels on some of these cars that come out of the manufacturer, guys, you could literally fit a pencil in some of these gaps. I'm not even joking, guys. The panel gapping on some of these Teslas that come straight out of the factory are ridiculous. And yet you just dropped 6 figures plus, and your doors look like they are not where they're supposed to be. The gap panelings inside your car are not where they're supposed to be. Parts within the car are coming off. So remember, guys, it's not sometimes just about the price because it's cheaper. It's what are you getting for that price? What is the value you are getting? And I'm going to tell you right now, this is number 4, Porsche builds a high quality vehicle. There is not a creak. There is not a missing alignment. I mean, I've checked this car, guys. The paneling is just not off. Everything is where it belongs. And it goes back to what I said earlier, my point. Why do you overpay on a Porsche? I just went through several items as to what is it that you get on this car that makes people overpay, if you want to call it. And the reality is, when you narrow it down, you are not overpaying on this car. You are getting the value that this car deserves, right? Why would somebody, again, pay more on a car for less, call it features and benefits, when you just look at it in black and white paper? Because when you get into a Porsche, guys, it's an experience on its own. That's why. It brings you exclusivity. It brings you heritage. Porsche, guys, has been building cars for decades. And they come with a pedigree, which is my 5th thing. This car has a pedigree of high quality cars, fast cars, reliable cars, right? So you're actually paying for that heritage. You are. And that is built into the culture of Porsche. It just is. So those are several of the ingredients I want to talk to you guys as to why did Edgar call it overpay on a Porsche? Why would somebody buy a Porsche Taycan over a Tesla Model S? And I just went over a whole, I'm sure I'm missing some. So I would love for you guys to comment down below as to what are your thoughts. Do you think the Porsche Taycan is overpriced? Right? What do you think? And I think a lot of my Porsche Taycan owners, which are again a select few because the car is rare, guys, are going to agree with a lot of the comments I shared. I'm sure I'm missing a lot. So when I look at it, did I overpay for this car? Absolutely not, because of the things I just mentioned, and I'm sure I'm missing some. You pay for what you get for in life, guys. That's the reality. Every now and then you might actually get some big bang for your buck, and you're like, wow, I can't believe it. It happens, guys, but that is a rarity. In most cases, especially in the automobile industry, you are going to pay for what you get. End of story. I hope you guys like the quick comments. The only thing I wish I could have done differently is I wish, honestly, I would have been a little bit more patient, and I would have probably went up a little bit to the maybe at least a Porsche Taycan S, because right now you can get one for about 109, 108, maybe certified pre-owned, and you'll get a little bit more horsepower. And that's one thing that I do miss with my base rear wheel model. It's fast, guys. It does 0 to 60 in about 4.9 seconds. But as you guys know and have been following the channel, really appreciate that. I do like a little bit of power, and I think this car lacks a little bit in power. So the only thing I would have changed is literally upgrading myself to an S, and that would have given me that extra power I'm looking for. And then I think the car would have just been perfect. I mean, it would be just, it would hit the sweet spot for me personally, guys. So as always, guys, please make sure you subscribe and turn on your notification. This was Car Connections. Peace.